Right then, it must be time for another update on my dev activity on my project of, uh, in the style of an epic YouTuber, MRPG. Yeah. So, without further ado, shall we dive right in? Here we are on the start screen. It's been a busy week for the project. I've gone from the basic concept to a working multiplayer prototype in just 7 days. Uh, let's break down everything that's happened in this first week of development, shall we? Here we are in game. As you can see, it's progressed quite a lot from the early days. We have an incremental score that goes up as you move. We have a health bar, and we have mobs that you can beat up and team up with your friends to beat up as well. The mobile control support is in. You can also use your mouse to move and click on things to attack and interact with them. And this little debug window doesn't show on mobiles anymore, so the screen is less cluttered. The mob system spawns mobs on a random chance. The further away you get from the start zone, it will spawn ever harder mobs for you to fight, and more frequently the further away you get as well. So eventually you would need a team of people to progress any further. When you die, your score is reset to 0. We also introduced NPC system. This signpost NPC says, "Welcome to the world. I am a humble NPC." When you ask him a question, he says it's rare for travelers to speak to NPCs. You must be special. So enough of this. We go back to the game. The mob system has a series of settings that you can configure in the environment file for the server, such as the chance of spawn, how many it can spawn, and whether or not it incrementally increases like this as you progress further out. Your health regenerates as well, albeit very, very slowly, so you can run away and live to fight another day. We also, as you can hear, have our in-game sound now, playing music in the background. So, day one, we saw the initial foundation built with the multiplayer system, integrating socket.io to handle real-time communication with player synchronization, and we even added a name system so you can name your players, or it will randomly generate a name, like you can see here for Mage 531. If I jump to my 2 other screens I had prepared, you can see we have the multiplayer support, where you can see the players. Other players are still currently shown as green. And of course, you can beat the other players up. And they can beat you up as well. When they do so, you leave a tombstone on the map where you were last time. These disappear over time at the moment. There's no functional use to them. I did think of adding like the ability to reclaim your points if you get back to your tombstone sort of thing. which is important because every time you die, your score drops to 0. The further away you make it from the start, the higher your score. The more mobs you kill, the higher your score. The more players you kill, the higher your score. So, you know, the object of the game really is to score as much as you can, to travel as far across the map and kill as many monsters and survive the longest at the moment. Still a few more ideas in the pipes to carry out on this. I think I might overhaul the terrain, possibly add some different classes to the game as well. Boss mobs were also part of the idea of the mob system, although they've not been implemented yet. The mob system itself is designed to be easily extensible and to be added to. Although originally we've only implemented these 3 orc, goblin and spiders, the idea was that we would add a whole range of fantasy critters to the map, such as undead, kobolds, and even, you know, perhaps dark mages and dark elves and things like that for you to fight. And then higher level, kind of hero boss level mobs to defeat. But also just general larger mobs that would require players to team up together to take them down, such as ogres, giants and dragons and so on, which might make the world more interesting too. Currently, the NPC system requires you to sort of specify in a JSON file where you want them to appear in this world and what they will say. This is obviously fine for this version of the world that I created, where we no longer use the sort of random seed to generate different worlds, but just have the single one world that we've created here. But were we to move back to that, then they would need to be placed in a more sort of procedural manner as well. I did have a thought of using an LLM to create the NPCs and the dialogues for them and place them around, based on sort of template guidelines that we give them. So you could like have a shop that it would choose to place once you get a certain distance out, and you know, things like that perhaps. Introduce blood splatters as well, a visceral combat system, just to sort of keep things interesting and fun. You can actually kite bad guys onto other players. Perhaps I should show that in a minute as well. If we go up and find Matey Boy up here. Here he is. So now we just need to find a mob. Walk around for long enough, one will spawn. Oh, there's one. Look, there's a goblin. You should attack the other player, not me now. One thing to mention about the mobs is that they will not enter the start zone. If you lead them all the way back to the start, they will stop outside a 10-tile radius of the start area, which means you can sort of walk up next to it and poke your tongue out. So it's starting to feel a bit more like a game concept now. Behind the scenes it's getting much more complex in terms of the code and the system running. Some of the logic was moved to the front end React-based system here, so that it's more aware of the terrain, where to place things and where not to place things. The whole death and respawn loop was recoded and recoded again. The mobile control system has been constantly regenerated to fix various issues that were introduced. So yeah, quite a sort of fun little experiment playing with it. I had a number of ideas for perhaps reusing the engine for a different style of game as well. I did think perhaps if we swapped the player for like a sort of kind of cutesy animation style tank, perhaps you could create a combat game where you have like zombie soldiers and tanks from a base somewhere in the north and your base in the south, and you drive your tank around shooting from the barrel at these things. Left click to fire a shell, right click to fire a machine gun, and perhaps you could find allies along the way, like an APC, like an M2 Bradley, or perhaps you could deploy troops to follow you as well, so that over time you'd build up like a squad of troops and vehicles that follow you, shooting at the enemy soldiers who inevitably come in bigger waves and harder to kill and so on. Which seemed like it could probably be achieved quite easily with this system. I did think as well, you could do something like a Desert Strike style game as well, where you would have a helicopter fly around that, and again, left click to shoot targets, or right click to fire rockets at them. Certainly, I think there's some potential to use it for other things. Possibly, something like this could be used to make like an RTS. You could, instead of controlling the character with the WASD keys, just control the camera purely, and click on a building to produce units, drag to select the units, and right click to order them where to go to attack or interact with things. Again, I would think it wouldn't be too difficult a job to kind of create the basics of such a system in this fashion, using this to do so. And I'm quite tempted to branch my project off into separate repositories and have a go at some of those ideas, and I'm sure I'll have even more ideas as I carry on with development, to be honest. I had a whole load of ideas for improving the terrain, including sort of random spawn of objects, things such as logs and grass, ruins, perhaps abandoned towers, walls that crumbled. I wanted to revisit the trees, maybe make them more kind of Mario, where they sway from side to side with the music and bop, perhaps. And then also larger structures perhaps could be also added in a procedural fashion to the map, such as villages or citadels and so on, that might spawn helpful allied troops and things like that, or enemy warriors like orcs and so on for you to battle. Again, these probably are future developments that I will look at doing. Anyway, it's been a fun week of coding, and we've got some solid foundations here, with the infinite world, the multiplayer, the combat, the mobs and monsters, and even mobile support. Next week, I'm sure I'll be doubling down on it again, and adding some of these things I've been talking about. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next update.